His wife she wasn't able to eat very much, and they had fed their son before they went. But Harry ate. And that night, Harry got pains in his tummy. And he had some blood. But he lived. And so 2 days later, he went and knocked on the door. And the man came and opened the door, and his face went absolutely white. And Harry thanked him for the meal. So I give you this one example anyway. Now you have said about Jesus was only sent to the Jews. Only go to the Jews and not to the Gentiles. Well, in the Quran itself, it talks about Mary, and then she says, I don't know any man, in Surah 19:21. And then it says that Jesus is to be a sign unto man and a mercy from us. In Matthew 4:9, a lady came and anointed Jesus' feet. He said, wherever this gospel is preached in the whole world, what this woman has done will be told. And in Matthew 28, when Jesus is about to ascend into heaven, he says, go into all the world and preach the gospel. Well, this is not a contradiction. He did say to his disciples, go only to the Jews, because the Jews were given a certain chance. There's a story in the Bible, shouldn't use a story, word story I suppose, but history, where Jesus came to a fig tree. And the fig tree had brought no fruit for 3 years. And so then he said, shall I tear it down? And then Jesus' answer was, no, leave it 1 more year and we'll fertilize it and see if it brings any fruit. This was all a parable about Israel. He had preached to them 3 years and he would preach another half. But then there are other parables that he told where he said, all right, it'll be taken away from you, the blessing, and given to the Gentiles. Dr. Nike has talked about the day and the periods. The day in the Bible also can have the time of a long period. It doesn't have to be 24 hours, as Dr. Bukai wanted to insist in his book. And I believe that it was long periods of time. And there are these problems that he has said, and I don't deny them, and I don't have good answers for them. But I will tell about... He spoke about the two kinds of salt, the sweet water and the salt water. I don't agree with his explanation. The Quran says that God has let free the two bodies of flowing water meeting together. Between them is a barrier which they do not transgress. Then which of the favors of your Lord will you deny? The word used here for barrier is barzakh, means interval, or gap, or break, or bar, or obstruction, or isthmus. The same information is given in Al-Furqan 25:53. It is he who has let free the two bodies of flowing water, one palatable and sweet, and the other salty and bitter. And he made between them a barrier and a partition that it is forbidden to pass. The phrase, a partition that it is forbidden to pass, represents two words from the same root. This is done in Arabic to stress or accent whatever is being discussed. The word hijr means forbidden, interdicted, prohibited, all very strong words. And the second word, which is the last participle of the verb, has the same, past participle of the verb, has the same meanings. Therefore, very literally, one might translate this as he, God, made between them a bar and a forbidden forbidding. Dr. Bukai discusses this briefly, and then he says, though he admits at the end, well, it mixes far out to sea. A scientist friend commenting on this said, "It is simply that the salt and fresh water are physically separated. The effluent from the river displacing the seawater, but there is no barrier. Thermodynamically, the mixing is a spontaneous, immediate process highly favored by entropy. The only barrier is kinetic. It takes a long time for that much stuff to mix." I myself have had a tiny example of this. I had a friend in Tunisia, and he used to hunt for octopi. So I went there once, and I jumped out of the boat and was swimming around, and it was right at where a small creek came in, and the top water was cold, and the bottom water was hot. I thought, how can this be? The top is cold and the bottom is hot. And then I realized the cold water was coming out of the river, and the salt water is heavy. So the salt warm water was on the bottom, and the cold light water was at the top. So there is no barrier. Dr. Nike spoke about languages, and of course I am not able to answer about the languages in India. Well, I couldn't answer about the Indian languages in America either, so it's no different between India and America. However, the place that he talks about in the Bible, the disciples were given languages as a miracle, but they were the languages that the people who were there knew. They weren't weak languages that were unknown. If somebody came from Spain, an apostle spoke to that person in his language from Spain. If another person came from Turkey, a different apostle spoke to the other person in his language from Turkey. I'm going to go to something that I've prepared to give and talk about witnesses. In Deuteronomy, God told Moses the way to know true prophet was, did his prophecy come true? Elijah is an example, Elias in the Quran. And he went to the king and he told him, it's not going to rain till I say so. And so it was 6 months and no rain, a year and no rain. Once in Tunisia, there was a whole year with no rain. Then 2 years with no rain, and 3 years, and 3.5 years. And then Elijah went to the king, and he said, we're going to have a contest. And they went up on Mount Carmel, and they had this contest. And the king lost. And in the Quran, it says that Elias had a major, wonderful victory. But then Elias fell down on his knees, Elijah, and he prayed for rain. And the rain came. Well, Elijah's the first witness. When he said it's not going to rain till I say so, he was the first witness. When God made the rain come, when Elijah fell down on his knees, God himself was the second witness. Another example is Isaiah 750 BC. The Jews were sent into exile. He prophesied they'd be sent to exile. And then Cyrus would bring them back. Cyrus, who's Cyrus? 250 years later, Cyrus, a Persian pagan king, sent the Jews back to Israel, back to Palestine. And there's a Cyrus cylinder in London that talks about it. So we can ask the question, did Jesus fulfill prophecies? Did Jesus do miracles? Did Jesus make prophecies? We're going to make a mathematical study of prophecies. It's called the theory of probabilities. We'll estimate the possibility that these prophecies could be fulfilled by chance. An example of this is, supposing Dr. Nike has 10 shirts. And I know he has a red shirt. And I say, tomorrow he's going to wear the red shirt. And tomorrow he does.